Well, hello there, ladies and gents. I'm Tammy Sipniewski, and you are watching Clear Cryptos. Well, it turns out, Three Arrows Capital is the gift that keeps on giving. Even though somebody doesn't have direct exposure to them, their tentacles are so wide, chances are you're going to be some way affected by the Three Arrows Capital bankruptcy. And such is the case with Algorand. And we found out that they have about a $35 million exposure to HODLNAUT. So HODLNAUT did have a lot of exposure to Three Arrows Capital. So HODLNAUT last month paused withdrawals from their platform because of their liquidity issues because of Three Arrows Capital. And a week later, they filed with the High Courts of Singapore for bankruptcy protections. So we'll find out about the Algorand exposure to them. But quick, let's have a little conversation about Algorand and projects that are very similar to them because, what was really the thing that Algorand had going for it? It's a layer one blockchain, so it sits right on top of Ethereum. It was very fast, very inexpensive, of course, decentralized, carbon neutral, and it was proof of stake. But now that Ethereum 2.0 is having the staking mechanism as well with the merge, people are wondering how exactly that's going to impact projects like Algorand. Are they going to continue to go down? Because the chart with Algorand looks much like the rest of the market, had a stellar year last year, but of course has dropped precipitously where they once were trading above $2. They're sitting at about 33 cents right now. So if you are an Algorand holder, you have a decision to make. Okay, am I going to DCA in here? Am I going to buy more Algorand? Or am I just going to pump the brakes and find out how directly Algorand is going to be impacted by the Ethereum merge? So right now, let's get to the article about the exposure to HODLNAUT, shall we? Algorand Foundation discloses a $35 million exposure in HODLNAUT. Algorand Foundation has announced that it has a 35 million USDC exposure in troubled Singapore-based lender HODLNAUT. So clearly they had $35 million worth of stable coin sitting in HODLNAUT. According to Algorand Foundation, its $35 million exposure is less than 3% of its assets and surplus to day-to-day requirements. Thus, it is unlikely to be affected or suffer any liquidity issues. So very minimal exposure here to HODLNAUT, less than 3%, which is great. It further explained its reasons for putting funds in HODLNAUT, saying as part of its mission, the foundation invests a portion of our surplus treasury capital to generate yield for the purpose of Algorand ecosystem development. And these funds were invested for that purpose, which makes sense. That's what everybody does. Why let something sit around and collect dust? Put that money to work for you. Most of the investments were short-term locked deposits, it claimed, and the suspension of withdrawals by HODLNAUT made those investments inaccessible. Meanwhile, the foundation claimed it's pursuing all legal means to recover its funds. Part of those efforts led to the appointment of the Algorand Foundation nominees as interim judicial managers to identify, preserve, and protect HODLNAUT's assets until further court action begins. Algorand is exposed to Three Arrows Capital. So they also had some additional exposure to Three Arrows Capital on top of the HODLNAUT venture. Algorand Foundation is also exposed to the bankrupt crypto hedge fund Three Arrows Capital. According to the court filings, the foundation was involved in a one-time OTC trade with the hedge fund, but Three Arrows Capital violated the lockup terms. Surprise, surprise. So we see a tweet from Goldman Sachs saying, look at, all of these people really got wrecked because of Three Arrows Capital. And Algorand did respond saying last September, the Algorand Foundation entered a one-off OTC trade with Three Arrows Capital. We have reason to believe 3AC violated the associated lockup terms and as such are seeking remunerations per the terms of the agreement. HODLNAUT was one of the crypto firms affected by the Terra Luna crash that it led to its suspended withdrawals on August 8th. Court filings show that HODLNAUT had about 317 million in Terra UST before the crash and lost about 189 million. The company is now under interim judicial management. Okay, so don't forget the UST was the Terra Luna stablecoin. And when So the stable coin was pegged to the US dollar, and when Terra Luna had the hyperminting, the stable coin fell, it quickly went to sub pennies. So where something was once worth a dollar, last week it was worth 3 cents. This week it's worth a nickel. So you can imagine everybody that was holding UST believing that, okay, we're protecting our assets. We're not leaving it into these other tokens or coins that their price fluctuates. It's going to be stable here at $1. Boom. You have a depegging of a stable coin and it brings down the whole market. Like in a way, everything was affected by this Terra Luna crash because so many people held that stable coin, and it was just a domino effect of bringing down all of these different projects. Three Arrows Capital brought down so many other things because they were borrowing. They were heavily leveraged. So they borrowed from, I think they borrowed 27 different companies to the tune of almost $4 billion. And now they're bankrupt. So that definitely has a domino effect on the rest of the market. Algorand upgrades its networks. Algorand Network recently completed an upgrade that increased the network capacity significantly. The upgrade also added the state proofs to the network. According to its official announcement, state proofs make cross-chain connections and transfers possible without needing a bridge or validator networks. This could eliminate the current challenges facing blockchain interoperability. The network, which prides itself as the only carbon neutral blockchain, which I'd mentioned earlier, which is great, is also the official blockchain partner of FIFA and will power the non-fungible tokens that the football governing bodies plans to launch. Okay, so they are going to be doing the NFTs for FIFA, or is it FIFA? Not exactly sure. But what I did like to see was that information about interoperability between the blockchains, because whenever you hear about, there being hacks or there being exploits with blockchains, it always happens at their bridge, always. And that happens because of what's known as an atomic swap. So let's say you wanted to bring some Ethereum on over to Polygon or Matic. Well, Ethereum is its own separate blockchain. If you want to get your Ethereum to work on the Matic blockchain, what you have to do is do an atomic swap. So you basically take your Ethereum and have a synthetic version of Ethereum minted over on Polygon and Matic to get it to work over there. And that's where all of the problems happen on the bridges. That's where all the exploits happen. If they have found a way to really do something where they can protect themselves from those atomic swaps and not be hurt like this, they really could be buckling things down at Algorand. So I do have some holdings in Algorand, and I DCA into a lot of the projects that I hold. The market's down. It's just the smart thing to do. It's, if you believe in the long-term vision of these different projects, it's really what you have to do, right? It's what Michael Saylor is doing with his Bitcoin holdings. And I think it's the right thing to do for you. If you have Algorand and you believe in their long-term vision, 33 cents for Algorand is great. Now, I'm not saying to spend all of your money. Of course, this is not financial advice. I have pumped the brakes when it comes to DCA. I've not been putting as much money, and I've been putting in less frequently. So maybe if I would make buys every single week, now I'm making them every 2 weeks and at lesser amounts. This way, because you're protecting myself in case the market continues to go down. And that's just the smart thing to do. And that's going to do it here for me today. Thank you for joining me, and I will catch you next time on Clear Cryptos. Take care.